my goodness. I took 3 weeks off over the holidays, and now it's like I completely forgot how to make a card. I guess it doesn't help that I'm in the midst of a couple of big changes in my craft room, and I don't really know where all my stuff is. I'll talk more about that when it's finished. But today, I wanted to show you more clearly one of the techniques I used recently in a short video to make this card. And I also needed to make my dad a birthday card. Let me show you how it went. To start, you need 3 circle dies. The size differences both need to be the same for the pattern to work. So here I've got 3/4 of an inch, 1 inch, and a 1 1/4 inch circle. And the difference is always 1/4 of an inch. For my previous card, I used 1 inch, 1 1/2 inch, and 2 inch circles. And the difference was always 1/2 an inch. I hope you get what I mean. You need to cut as many of the large and small circles as you will have patterns on your cards. And if you're using ink blending, you only need a couple of the mediums. If you want to just layer up die cuts, then you need the same number of medium circles as the others. Now, we really need half circles to make this pattern. And of course, cardstock is not easy to fold, and I don't find it easy to accurately find the diameter of a circle. So the way I did it was to cut the same size circle out of thin paper and fold it in half. Then I could just lay it on the back of my cardstock circle and mark the halfway point with my pencil. And then I just kept doing that for all of my large circles. Now, this design isn't my idea. I got it from someone on Split Coast Stampers who got it from someone called Sue Vine in Australia. And I've looked and looked to find her original instructions, but I wasn't able to. Next, I used those pencil lines to cut all the circles in half. I won't make you sit through it. If you choose bigger circles, you won't need to do as many as I'm doing here. But don't forget that rule about the difference between each pair being the same measurement. Next comes a whole lot of ink blending. I created a half circle mask with the medium circle. I used the same method to find my halfway point, but this time I put the pencil mark on the front of the circle because I want to be able to see it to make sure my mask is placed correctly. I put down a large half circle on a grip mat, and then I lined up that medium mask so that it was touching the right edge of the larger circle, and the pencil line lined up with the base of the larger half circle. Then I blended blue ink on the exposed portion of that large circle. Next, I used the negative space of the medium circle to create another mask so I can fill in that white portion. Except my circle dies have a frame feature built in, so my medium circle negative is not the same size as my medium circle. Oh boy, I forgot about that. I tried just using the larger piece for my first try, but it became very clear very quickly that it was not going to give me the precise look I wanted. I looked around my craft room and I found this mini slim cover plate that has circles the exact same size as what I needed. And I used some thin paper and created a mask from that. So now for my second attempt, you can see how it's really supposed to work. I put the mask down, blend the blue ink, then I removed the circle mask, used the negative mask, and blend the green ink. And if there's any little white bits showing, I just put down a little more ink to cover it. They look like eggs, don't they? Then I just repeated and repeated until I had 12 half circles done. Then I thought of something I could have done while I was blending the blue and green, which was to add a bit of navy blending to add some depth. I grabbed one of my half eggs and I blended some navy around the bottom. And then I tested with one of the small white circles to see how much of the depth would be visible. And I adjusted my blending a little as I worked through the rest. And now for the second 12 half circles, pretty much everything is opposite. At this point, my blue mask was completely saturated and sticking to my grip mat. Plus, I couldn't even see the pencil line anymore. So I wanted to create another mask. And I couldn't find my medium circle anywhere. I paused the video and I looked and looked around my craft room. And then I tried to be clever about some alternative solutions, including just cutting the original mask in half. But then I didn't have anything to grip it with to hold it in place. Honestly, I got myself really frustrated. And finally, I turned off my camera and I followed the advice I give my kids when they can't find something. Just keep putting things away. And yes, I found it pretty much immediately. Anyway, this time, as I said, everything's pretty much opposite. This time I'm putting green on the outside edge, and this time the half circle mask gets placed at the left side of the large circle. And then the blue ink goes in the inner half circle. And finally, I put navy on the edge to add that depth. And then I did that 12 times. And now I've just got my final bit of ink blending left to do, the smallest circles. I wanted a mix of colors, some red and some yellow, but I used the same ink blending method for all of them. I used a mini brush from Altenew and I blended my ink around the edges of the circle to try and leave a white highlight somewhere near the center. I did this on my first 6 circles, and then I grabbed a darker ink and one of those tiny blending brushes from Waffle flour to add some depth just along the edge of one side of the circle. This really makes these circles look round and 3D. Then I repeated with 2 colors of red ink, and the same thing. The lighter red in circles all over, trying to leave that highlight, and then the darker red on one part of the edge. Whew. Now we're ready to assemble. I pulled out an A2 size piece of white cardstock just to help me figure out how to arrange my swirls on the card. It's actually pretty easy to assemble. You take one of each of the half circles and you offset them so that the green lines up. This creates the look of the colors swirling around, but what really makes it magic is putting the smaller circles in the middle. See? It's so cool. Because I wanted to emboss the blue-green swirls, I taped them together with small slivers of Scotch tape. You want to be careful to try and keep that center join line as straight as possible to make the pattern look its best. When I had 3 rows taped together, I got out the Dotty Circles 3D embossing folder from Altenew. I think this works well for this because it's not a regular pattern. Just add some fun texture to the swirls. You could glue the colored circles on before embossing for another look. I lined my swirls up on my 4x4-inch square panel of white, and I popped them up with foam dots. I wasn't sure if I should have put this onto a navy panel, so stick around and you'll get a chance to compare. And only at this point did I realize I had actually put one of my swirls in its row upside down. My goodness, the card-making gods or whatever are definitely not on my side today. I decided to turn it upside down so that at least the air is at the bottom. My foam tape is so sticky that it'll rip these pieces if I try to pull them off, and I'm not starting over at this point. Once I had them all popped up, I added the yellow and red circles, leaving the center one blank for a larger yellow circle for my sentiment. But once more, the gremlins got me, and I couldn't find the medium circle die anywhere. Again! Another cleanup session, and I finally found it under my glass mat, and I stamped my sentiment on it. Finally, I put some of the navy ink around the edge of the front of my card base, and I added the white panel. Done. Well, after all that, of course I had 3 more of my little swirly patterns, so I made another card, this time with a navy background, and I embossed the whole panel rather than just the half circle pieces. Which one do you like better? Let me know in the comments below. I think I'll give one to my dad and one to my husband, whose birthday is later this month. Now this pattern is a little complicated and it took a little effort to figure it out, but I love using simple shapes to make patterns because they're so versatile. You can change the colors and sentiments and they'll work for any occasion. And also, I love the sense of accomplishment from overcoming all those little obstacles along the way. Now I'm wondering if I could do something similar with squares instead of circles, but not today. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.